Hello, I'm Laura Fielding, Executive Director of Red Berets Medicare for All, and here we are live on episode 15. So the exciting news is that Justin Jackson has launched last night. Sarah Hansen tagged me in the tweet, and he had done about a 7-minute video and then created a tweet about it. The 7 minutes is covering or introducing us to his new YouTube podcast. He's going to be covering the news from an independent, populist perspective. And so it was about 7 minutes of him kind of providing the lens that he sees the American political system through and the changes that he feels that we need to make for working class people. And there was a strong emphasis right out of the gate. So it's called the Takeover. Did I say that? So right out of the gate, he made the point that it's really imperative that we build a strong and broad infrastructure, independent media infrastructure, because there are clearly still too many people who are getting their news, or they think that it's news, from corporately owned media like CNN and MSNBC, Fox, you name it. I'll just pick on those three. You can't, anyway, like he made the point really, really well that it's basically talking points and stuff directly from, the CIA and, the state, really. So it's propaganda. You hear very little reported about actual, like, working class people's lives. Every once in a while, they'll give like a little segment. And that is how propaganda works, is they provide little bits here and there that kind of seem like they're covering issues, and so that people feel that they're getting the news, but it's heavily enmeshed with talking points. I don't even want to say Republican talking points. No, just corporate talking points that are very cleverly designed, by PR professionals to, propagandize people into voting against their own interest and for example, on the issues of healthcare. And, recently Wendell Potter was on the Whole Washington Book of the Month book club. So we have a new author, not a new author, but each month we feature an author. And so Wendell Potter was the most recent guest, and he, I think it was Cigna that he was a PR executive for. I might be mistaken; it might not be Cigna, but anyway, he was a very, very highly paid PR executive, and so his books are, he's doing a lot of advocacy work now to try to explain to people that this is what the insurance industry has been doing really for decades, and they're ramping up their efforts. So regardless, the left, the quote unquote left, like CNN and MSNBC have, their kind of framing and talking points that are designed to land with that kind of audience. They're very similar, though. I mean, sometimes there's a slightly different take on it, whether you watch it on like right wing, corporately owned media, or left wing. But either way, what it's designed to do is propagandize people into, basically buying the insurance company talking points. Anyway, so that is a super exciting announcement. And so there was a lot within that 7 minutes. I don't accomplish nearly as much. And so he's already done a story on, the corruption and the quid pro quo of Andrew Cuomo. I was just watching that video. But to get back to the 7-minute clip, if I got introduced to him on Twitter, so I've been following him on Twitter for quite some time, and that's what inspired me to basically, a few weeks back when I was thinking about what could Whole Washington do for Black History Month, to recognize it's Black History Month. And, we've been showing Power to Heal. We've had quite a few live showings, but this is something that just needs to be a recurring event, because we need to we need to really get this out to a lot of people. So I thought to myself, oh yeah, like Justin Jackson obviously really cares about this issue because he was such a strong voice during Force the Vote, during that whole I'm going to call it a movement, and it was and it is, because there are people that started following me and trying to get in touch who have basically shared with me that they were not involved at all, even though they've kind of been following things and whatever. Maybe they've supported Bernie, who knows what they were doing, but they weren't really like actively involved in organizing. But now, because of the energy and the kind of like that really brought up that sort of like, we got to fight for this now. Now is like because I think most people are keyed into the fact that we've just got this really, it's like an albatross. What are we going to do that is going to, because it's going to take time to primary all these people. And then what happens to the bold progressives that are in there is they're slowly getting like they're getting sunk in this like ship of mire and corruption. I'm not saying they are corrupt. I'm just saying like the amount of time that it takes us to get more uncorrupted, independent-minded, progressive populists, whatever you want to say, if they enter through the Democratic Party, I would say that like the attrition process, has happened. What happens when people enter the Democratic Party is happening faster than what we can catch up to send them reinforcements, right? That's a whole other debate. But anyway, I was just really, really excited in that 7 minutes because among all of the stuff that he introduced us to that he's going to be covering in his podcast, he basically said, also he really cares about providing a platform, helping to provide a platform for people in the communities and on the ground organizing that maybe doesn't get, a bunch of national recognition, even from our independent media movement. And I think it's because that's for several reasons, as I see it. One of the most just kind of like not loaded things is because look, what's people really, we're so used to looking at everything through like an electoral lens that people aren't mobilized to work on, and I don't mean to say nobody is, lots of people are, actually, we're doing it, right? But that we need more people to kind of just like not use as much time, debating or trying to think about what AOC or Ilhan Omar or, Representative Jayapal are doing. If you want to call and do the calls to action to try and get, your representatives to co-sponsor or support their legislation, or you want to reach out to people in your community to try to bring them on board, that's a different matter. That's organizing. But again, I made the point, I think it was on a video yesterday. I know 100%, I know with 100% surety that barring some kind of massive, something that Representative Kilmer, my representative, something that he would, barring something that he would deem as being like electorally catastrophic, he wouldn't come out and support Medicare for all. So, I covered how he was not pushed to support Medicare for all, even with a very strong primary challenger, Rebecca Parsons. So I kind of feel like, when we're told like, we need to just support the national, of course I support the national nurses and I support what it is that they're doing and I support the federal legislation. And when there's good and powerful actions to take to support that, then I do it, and I try to reach out and get other people to do it. But in the interim, like really, we're not hearing. That's what was so powerful about Force the Vote, is it inspired people, like people who know we need it, that when is the next time that the vast majority of people are going to get truly like mobilized and inspired, like to push up their sleeves and get to work to say, okay, it's time to fight for Medicare for all? Is that in 2023 when it's time, hopefully, for a progressive? I'm going to try to get away from using the word progressive. I just don't like it anymore, because I don't know if it's good enough for me. Progressive is just, it's too co-opted, and it's also, I want to get away from the framing of it, because it pushes people like thinking that we're looking at through the left, and we really have to get away from that. Everyone needs health care. It's a nonpartisan issue. It's the corporate media that has framed it as leftists are the people that want this, and everyone else is like against it. That's not true. Yes, it is true that more Democrats, or more supposed, kind of people towards the left, through the polling, support it. But look at how off track I get there. But if we really want to change minds and hearts, or, well, let's start not with changing minds and hearts, but listening to people. My brother and I have been talking on the phone quite a bit, and he might, on quite a few issues, I think he would be kind of more like, maybe he'd be I don't know how he kind of identifies. Maybe he'd be like a libertarian, a little bit more right-leaning on some issues. But one thing that I'm kind of now being inspired to do by him is really, he is good at listening. He's listening about the stuff with Whole Washington without, oh yeah, but like, he doesn't interject, and he's just kind of trying to kind of take it all in. And I look forward to recommending Dr. Jarvis. There's a book that Dr. Jarvis wrote. I'll have to look up the title, but it's basically the conservative case, because he's a conservative doctor in Utah. The conservative case for single payer, for passing single payer, state to state. And there are a lot of, libertarians or right-leaning thinkers who I think would support passing it more at the state-by-state level. We could go into all kinds of details about that. Really, the point is, are people really expecting us to sit by for another presidential primary challenge, and one that we're not even sure will happen? We will have likely Kamala Harris that's being, if Biden goes through the whole first term, it's more than likely going to be that it'll be Senator, not Senator now, Vice President Harris, who is going to be, nobody will be, they'll go full bore against anybody who dares to mount a challenge against her. And so I think hopefully that it's from somebody from within a third party. Then people are like, there's problems with the People's Party. There's problems with all kinds of stuff. I hope that we're able to come together and find a champion that we can get to do that. Because I think without a third party challenge, there's nowhere to push this administration. But again, that's like, look how easy it is to get swept away into all of that and that future stuff. And I'm not saying it's not important to think about that, but that's, a lot of that stuff is, at this point, beyond our control. And, we need to be organizing, like, so, the whole national thing of support the federal legislation and work on that all the time is like, I already know that my representative can't be moved on it. I'll still do the actions if there's like a big town hall and a bunch of us can go and make an impact. But why we need to be not putting all of our eggs in one basket. And, Canada passed Medicare. I've been calling it Medicare for all a lot. Their system is Medicare, but their Medicare covers everybody. So anyway, that happened historically in Canada more than 50 years ago. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And so I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because I'm getting some messages. So the thing about it is that I was really inspired to see that Justin Jackson had given a shout out to Healthcare for All Los Angeles, because of course he's in LA because he plays for LA Chargers. And it's been a really fun relationship between Healthcare for All Los Angeles and Whole Washington, because then next he named Whole Washington. Thank you. And then New York Health Act, which he said he's going to be covering because they've got a vote coming up soon. So he named out 3 specific state level single payer organizations, 3 one-payer states that are working to achieve universal single payer Medicare for all it's not Medicare, but so we call it single payer or universal health care, everybody covered at the state level. And I think that's awesome because it looks like he's, and since he's coming to speak at Whole Washington's Power to Heal event here on the 27th, and I certainly hope, I'm going to keep saying this, and I'm going to continue to ask everyone, please see my Twitter feed. Please see Whole Washington's Twitter feed. I've literally put that event link up so many places. In fact, I've used the link so many times that I think this is part of the issue for why Twitter is letting like 12 people see my tweets. I am terrible at Twitter. That's why I mean, I'm not terrible at it. I have my own way of doing it because I really use it to kind of like bring people into the conversation and kind of connect people. So I tag people in photos that aren't necessarily in the photos, but if I want them to see a particular or participate in a particular thread or whatever, that's how I do Twitter. And I don't, the algorithms definitely don't like me because I share a ton of links. I @ people, which also, it makes some people mad or annoys people. I'm only on these social media things to organize. I'm not on to just sit there and yes, I say my opinions on there, but if I can coalition build, like this wonderful, I can't give her an actual shout out, because I forget her @ but I'll try to put this video on the comment that she left. But she added me with this video of Fred Hampton and a bunch of people supporting or part of the Black Panther Party who were wearing red berets and, advocate, strong social justice warriors. And that was so cool. That's just the kind of stuff that is very neat when people see something. So I like it when people @ me. I kind of, obviously like it's a lot if people are, but even the lists, I don't mind lists because if somebody tags like a whole bunch of progressive or sort of like-minded people that all, support this Medicare for all and whatnot, I usually try to thank whoever has included me or put me in it. And then if it's got sort of like 30 or 40 or more people tagged in it, I'll throw something in there in that thread that I want people to see, like the link for Power to Heal event with Justin Jackson on the 27th. So I want everybody, please, who watches this, I think it's too long-winded, and my mind has done that thing again where it just kind of goes, it wants to fray in like 16 different directions. But the real shout out, and I thought I was going to get to reading policy today on Whole Washington because I am being interviewed on Amped Up Pod by Ryan Knight at Proud Socialist, and that is on Friday. And then the Vanguard reached out to me and said, would you like to be on again at 6 p.m.? So it's like an hour after I will finish the interview with Ryan Knight. And he said, they DM'd and said, would you like to come on to the podcast with Andre Stackhouse, who is going to be hosting or kind of co-hosting. He'll do it more because he'll stay on track. I talk too much. So I'm allowed a time limit to say what I need about fundraising and Red Berets, and please support Whole Washington by donating. Even if it's $1, even if it's $5, we have to start asking for that. So anyway, that will be my role. I don't really know that I will, because the point is to give the platform to Justin Jackson, and it's Black History Month, so I don't need to go on and take up a bunch of space. But I do want to make sure that people understand that we're serious about at least being willing to ask them for the financial help, and it's weird because I don't feel comfortable sometimes asking for people's money. I've given away so many red berets because I think the thing is I understand that a lot of progressives are like we're already putting our money and stuff into all the causes, and we're also like volunteering hours and doing stuff. So I feel bad asking for money. And so I just like have given so many of these away. I'm doing that less frequently now because I want to make money for whole Washington. We need the money, so that's the thing, is that if we're serious about defeating, taking on the enormous amount of money, cash that would be thrown if whole Washington, eventually is able to have a bill that gets a public hearing. If when COVID is, when everything's safe, and we can raise enough money to launch a ballot initiative, that's kind of unlikely at this exact moment, but anything can change. We can maybe we'll raise the money. We won't raise the money if we do not ask for it, so I'm going to get a lot better at just asking people, can you be a contributor of whole Washington and give $5 a month? Or, I just don't want to put a value on it for people. Maybe they can give maybe you can give 27. Maybe you already have like other, but what I want to say is like candidates are important. And, I understand that I support candidates, but it's also like, I want everyone to kind of start understanding that one payer states is our chance right now. If you're willing to, if you being whoever's listening to this, if you think that it is a good idea for us to wait until we have elected an uncorrupted Congress, I wouldn't recommend that, because I've seen firsthand the amount of work that goes into these races to mount a successful primary challenge from whatever party. Yes, I can give her that. Sorry, I should just have my phone notifications off, and I need to get off and go here, because I was going to read the frequently asked questions and answers, because I'm meeting with Jason Call, who I was starting to say on the Vanguard. It's going to be myself and Andre Stackhouse and Jason Call, and Jason, hopefully both of them will take up more time, because Jason got a very exciting endorsement yesterday. Mariana Williamson endorsed him. So he had put out a tweet saying, what is the protocol or process for garnering, I don't remember his exact wording. It was a great tweet. And some of us jumped in there like saying, yes, please. So, and that got traction, and it was same day turnaround. He did that in the morning, and then it was like sometime in the afternoon or evening, late afternoon, I think, that she responded and said, I'm proud to endorse Jason Call. He is running currently. He is running as a Democrat. But like for me personally, and for all of us who organize in Washington State, again, as part of the coalition of whole Washington, the reason we even know who Jason Call is when he's like a couple of hours north, not even in my district, is because he is and has been a champion for helping to write a really progressive Democratic platform, but the state Democratic Party chair can't stand him. She's a centrist, and he is somebody who is very, very vocal about calling out corruption. That's very rare. Usually people go in and they get pretty timid because they don't want to lose their power or rock the boat or have their position, threatened, just all kinds of stuff. Right. But I am a very strong supporter of Jason Call, however he runs, because the thing is, he's tried and true. He has worked within that party and builds coalitions with people that are in other parties, and was on the board of whole Washington. So literally we have a lot of evidence from him that he walks the walk, and that he can walk that walk within that and not compromise his values. And that is, I would say, from my fairly limited experience, because I didn't organize for very long within the Democratic Party, but I could certainly feel it when I went. When I went in to the meetings and stuff, it never really threatened. It didn't sort of make me want to do quell it down. But I always felt sick to my stomach. I always felt I just didn't feel comfortable. I want to go to a place where I feel comfortable and where I don't feel like I'm like an inconvenience or pushing. It was so funny at one of these meetings that I went to. And I guess it's good that she was offering food. She offered like the leftover food tray to me and said, are you struggling or something? And I think she thought that, again, we don't want food to go to waste. So I'm not like, oh yes, how dare you say that about me? But it was just, she had no evidence, or she had no reason to ask that of me particularly, other than I just think like, I was there every single month, and during the good of the order, I would get up and stand there and give updates about what's going on with whole Washington and how 500,000 Washingtonians are uninsured and double that are underinsured, and we need universal health care and we need everyone's help. But I mean, I got tired of going there and begging and essentially like just having so little support for that. So I don't mean to. I could just that's it. I could go on about the Democrats, but my point is, I don't blame people on Twitter when they're like, never vote for a Democrat. Never, I'm never supporting that. We can't have people continuing to like. We absolutely have to, start to build power as in a third party or just do organizing on issues like with whole Washington. And that is one reason why I strongly support whole Washington is because when you get together around an issue like universal health care, I know and respect a lot of people who are part of the whole Washington community, some of them are Democrats, some of them are Green Party, some of them are maybe the Progressive Party of Washington State. Some of them are not in any party because they don't choose, they're an independent, and they're working on coalition building on issues. So that helps you kind of see everything through a different lens instead of an electoral lens, because healthcare is not supposed to be something that's just supposed to mobilize the masses when we have a progressive champion who's willing to like take the torch and say, now I'm going to fight for you and let's take on the establishment. And I hope Nina does that. Like I do, but I'm not going to wait for that to happen. If we wait for that to happen, it doesn't matter how many amazing speeches and how fire and how amazing that she is, because she is, it's not enough if we haven't built that like single payer universal healthcare infrastructure and started to really work our way out of this bubble and reach out to other people. If we haven't done that over the course of the next several years, it will be the same situation again. It's not enough. So this is why we need, among many reasons, this is why we need state-based single-payer organizing. And the national movement should be much more willing to say that this is a synergistic strategy to work on both. Because in order to accomplish it at the federal level, you're going to imagine having a whole Washington in every single state. Even if we haven't accomplished it yet, we now have an email database that we can immediately send out calls to action. If it's going to be that Representative Pramila Jayapal is going to have another hearing when she reintroduces her bill, whole Washington sends out to all of our volunteer base, this is what's happening, please do this action. So we need to have that in every single state. But where we can immediately call to action on federal legislation, but you build that by actually working on it at the state level. That's how you build the energy, because people need it now. They're inspired to work on something that they have a chance of accomplishing when people need it, which is now, not something that's like, oh, let's make a plan and a platform and a path and a wish list and a selfie. Okay, I gotta go. All right, we'll talk to you all later. Have a good day.